Welcome back to another Mastering Video Marketing podcast. I'm Tony Reale, and today I'm joined with a very special guest.
Hello, my name's Quinn Capel.
Quinn has been our editor for a while now, and more than that, he's been a big part of our team. Grip, shooter, second, like a little bit of everything. Being a smaller production company, we all kind of have to fill in different roles at different times, and so it's been great to have somebody as a member of the team that can be familiar with every aspect of video production, but then also specialize in the key areas that we need you to focus on. Like, I know, like, some people that have reached out to us for jobs in the past are, I'm like, I'm a fast learner. I can learn a whole bunch, and that's great. Yep. But like, I need you to be good at something, not just at average at everything. Yeah. So, anyways, thanks for joining us today, Quinn. Today I thought it'd be a fun topic to talk about how to get started in or get your first job in video production. We've talked in past episodes about how to start your own company, but that's not for everybody. It's for some people. Like,
definitely not for me. I would not want to do what you're doing. That's a very scary thought to me. So,
and for me too, like, my first job in video production was not owning my own company. It was, I worked at a church as their video director for several years. And so, but interestingly enough, I feel like you and I have similar stories about how we first just broke into getting jobs in the first place. So I thought it'd be fun to do that. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And so, for you, I know, just, similar to myself, like you, this was a passion, this was a hobby. You did go to school for it. So, and I didn't. I went to school for graphic design and kind of stumbled into video production. And at the time, they didn't really have a decent video production school, because I went to NWTC as well, Northeast Wisconsin Technical College. And so since then, they have started a video production course. So tell us about, your experience with that.
Well, it's a fun experience too, because I always tell people that it wasn't my first choice going into that college. I had two options. It was either coding and doing software development, or if it was video production. Coding, 3 semesters in, wasn't my. I didn't want to play around with that one anymore. And then I went right into video production, and it was just like way better for me. But when it came to coming out of that college as well, the job opportunities was like pretty low. It was like everyone was on the struggle bus and just trying to like get their footing into like the sort of just atmosphere in the area. Because if you don't want to move to any like bigger cities or anything, you're gonna be picking at very little around here. So
exactly, yeah. That's honestly, I joke, one of the reasons that I started my own production company is because there weren't a lot of jobs for. So, if you're in a bigger city, then there might be. But if you're in, like us, where, Green Bay is about 250,000, it's a decent size, but it isn't like, a multi-million-dollar city or million population city. So, yes, there's going to be a lot more. And unless you want to move, which is honestly the best chance of getting a job, is to go to a larger market. Like for us, it would have been maybe Milwaukee, Madison, or Chicago if you want to be in the region. Otherwise, LA, New York, that type of stuff. But there are, still opportunities that can be had in the local market. And sometimes they're non-traditional, though. Like for me, again, my first job was the video director of a church. And so, you might not think, oh, that's a great opportunity for video production. You might think news, or you might think, again, a production company or things like that, or maybe an agency. But, I found like a lot of people, even, one of your friends, he also works at a church. And so like that, sometimes those are good stepping stone locations.
Of course.
Sean, who's our former editor, he also worked at a radio station, oddly enough, and doing they were trying to expand into video production as a service on their website, because even though radio, which is not video at all, they have their own website that they funnel people to. They have like their own live player on their website. So they found a lot of people were going to their website to listen to the radio. And so within that, they were able to do a different branch of ads. And Sean helped launch that for them in the first place. And they did find a level of success on that too. So sometimes, we're going to bounce around topically, but like finding a job in and of itself, sometimes it can be in a non-traditional sense. And even for you, I mean, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I'll let you start the story, but you didn't start off working for Creative Edge. You started actually working for the
arcade. Yes. So that was fun. Yeah, being a VR attendant wasn't my first idea right out of college, but it was like I was right by the door. I was like, it was just opening, and I was just like trying to stick my foot in, like, Tony, please help me. And eventually, time does help in that process, and you get to notice me helping out the arcade with all the stuff that I do with them, and then eventually you're just like, I like this.
And I'm finding a lot of companies are tending to start to recognize the importance of video and to incorporate some sort of content creator in their workflow. Even for us, as a video production company and a video marketing agency, we can't do everything for a company. I mean, we'd love to, but like we just don't have the manpower, or most companies don't have the budget for us to do every single form of content for them. So we funnel our focus on creating content in more batch formats, like our short form content, podcasts, things like that. Or for digital marketing strategies, so like social media ad campaigns and other sales funnels and things like that, where we can really just focus on kind of the flagship content for the brand, but then we still encourage them, like, have somebody on your team that can produce that content. And so we're finding companies like Green Bay Blizzard, who's been one of our great partners to work with over the years. They have their own guy that works in the company that manages their social media, goes out to games and shoots footage and all that kind of stuff. It does player highlights. But then we do kind of the bigger, broader stuff that are the main ad campaigns, all stuff that we have more experience with, and then we have the better equipment to execute on. So again, sometimes those are good stepping stones. Again, for the arcade, even Creative Edge, we're pretty busy, so we couldn't always be there doing all the practical shooting stuff. So we needed to have attendants that could also do that. And a lot of our attendants didn't have as much experience. So when we brought you on board, it was like, oh, great, we got somebody that actually can help customers, be friendly, be attentive, and then also help with the social media stuff and do it from a high level of creativity. That's for a lot of people, it's a struggle just to get them to take a picture halfway decent. In our video Pathfinder system, which you've seen so much of in your edits and everything, but that we talk a lot about the 4 different types of video or social media content for businesses. Which, again, if you want, this is going to be a really brief version of it. If you want to watch the entire webinar, it's completely free at videopathfinder.com. But we talk about how the second category, we talk about candid content. We really, really recommend businesses focus their energy on that. And get this. And that was one thing I told our staff, is I'm not asking you to take a beautiful picture,
but I love beautiful pictures.
But I want our staff to get into a habit of just like, when people are here, because usually I was here at the arcade during standard business hours where the arcade is not full. It's usually the evenings and weekends that it's there. So I would come in a few times throughout the month sometimes to do that, but I don't have a ton of time. So I would say we need to have staff just get your phone out, snap a picture when the arcade is full. And
get the action.
Exactly. And that candid content always performs better than the polished posts that we talked about in our first category.
The moment pictures.
Exactly. So and again, that was kind of that first opportunity where we got to see you kind of flex your muscles, so to speak, because you're always bringing new and original ideas that I'm not looking for a person that can do exactly what I do. I want them to come and bring new ideas.
I was trying so many different approaches to it, because almost every, I don't want to say customer is different or what I'm seeing in sort of like my vision, but just trying literally 5 different things a day and just seeing which one lands and then go with that.
Exactly. So let's rewind back. I'll tell a little bit of my story as well, because you probably will see some of sort of a parallel between those. But when I was first getting into video, very much a hobby, and honestly, at that point, I didn't know if it was ever going to be a job. I thought it was just going to be something that I would do as a creative outlet. Fast forward to today, and I find that almost every hobby I've now turned into a job, which there's only a few left that I can actually hang out to.
For game hobbies, switching slowly.
Quinn has become a regular attendee of my board game nights, and so
I love him.
He knows the collection, he knows that, but we always joke like, "How we could turn this into a show. We could do some stuff." I'm like, no. It's
board game right here, Tony.
sacred.
Board game right here.
But when I was first doing it, I was attending a larger church at the time that had a really great video department. They had multicam, Sunday morning messages, and then they also had a marriage ministry that was at an international speaker that was a part of it, and they had content that they were doing on a regular basis for that too. So it was like, it just happened to be that was a big part of their workflow. And a friend of mine that worked in the video department there found out that I was into video, and so he mentioned it to one of the staff members, and they said, "Hey, would you like to volunteer?" Sure, that would be fun. Great creative outlet for me. So I started doing very similar to you, where it was just I was throwing anything at them that they would take.
Yep.
A lot of times they didn't care for it. It wasn't the right thing, the right time. They didn't have the budget or the energy to put, even though I was working as a volunteer, still takes time and budget to do some bigger ideas.
Of course.
And there was even one idea. They had a men's conference that they were doing called the Manly Man Conference. And there was the first year they were doing that. And during that time, for those of you that may remember this, there was like the MTV Music Awards, and it was really popular during the early 2000s to do these parody intros to these things. So like with MTV, they would intercut clips from like the new Batman movie or the new Matrix or whatever like that. They would intercut these clips, and then and they would juxtapose it with like footage that looks like it was shot at the same time of the host.
Yep.
And it would be comedic and fun, and then they'd have the actors from the actual scenes, playing against that. So then they would make them sound like they're saying something goofy or whatever because they're responding. It's like when you see those the press conferences where the person asks them a question that's fake and then they answer the real. And anyways,
yeah.
So those were fun, and I was inspired by that. And I said, what if we did like a thing where the main speaker is trying to get there, and there's like an assassination attempt on him, so it turns into this action movie intro,
James Bond action movie, yeah.
And so I share with them the idea, and they're like, "That's great. We don't have time for it.
No time.
Yeah, exactly.
Never time."
And so I had the whole script and storyboard in my head, and I was just like, I just want to shoot this. All right. So I grabbed a buddy of mine. And fortunately, I was kind of had free reign of it. So we went into the church and we just shot the whole thing. Did it in one afternoon. I went home and edited it that night, and I emailed it to them the next day. Not expecting them to do it, but just to be like, here, this is what it would have looked like. This is what I wanted to do. Didn't think much of it. 2 days later, I get a phone call that the video had just gone viral within the church. Like everything, it's a bigger church. There's a lot of people that work there, and it worked its way all the way to the top. And I got a phone call going, "How long did it take you to do this?" And I was like, "Well, I did it in one afternoon." And they're like, "Okay, if we can do it like in one day,
can you make?
We could, yeah." And so I'm like, "Sure." So we went ahead and did it. Again, this is still me being a volunteer at this point. We shot it, had a blast, and at the end of that shoot, the main pastor came up to me and he's like, "How'd you like to do this for a living?" Yeah.
And then it starts.
Yeah. So they formally gave me a job offer. I accepted it, and I started working there. And even there was like a big church meeting that they had, and the pastor actually pointed me out, and he said, Tony had an idea for a thing that we didn't approve, but he took the time to demonstrate it and basically do a live proposal of it. And he was showcasing how that was something that he wanted to see more people at the church doing. Being like, instead of just being like, here, raising your hand and waiting for a no, it's like, if you have the time or you can budget and allocate time to execute or do like a demonstration of it so that people can see it. Because I say this all the time, people don't care what you can do, they care what you have done. And so when you're reaching out to clients, that's why your portfolio is so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what you can do. It really doesn't. Like, sky's the limit. We know what we can do in our mind, but like a lot of clients are not creative. They're not imaginative. They can't see the thing. We have it in our heads. It's like you get like a great idea and it's just glued in your head. I can't get rid of this.
Yeah, but they need to see the content that you created in the past.
Because they just don't, most of them don't have that skill set. That's why they're hiring you. You're the one that's good at being creative. They're not. So they need that extra help.
That's why it can be rather difficult to get your first step into the field, because you don't have a whole lot of work to show for.
Yep.
So you need sort of that drive, kind of like what you had with the church, to sort of just do something kind of like on your own. A lot of people have the mentality, well, I won't do anything until I get paid for it. But that you'll be on the struggle bus for a while with that mentality, and you got to break that.
So tell me about some of your earlier projects when you were just playing around and trying things out.
Oh, well, I'll never tell you the YouTube channel, but it was a lot of skits with my college friends and stuff like that, just like normal YouTube stuff. We did that in college, and then coming out of college, we did that a little bit, and I graduated right before 2020. We know what happened. So it's just like, it was like, how do I get video for any company that doesn't want to, get in contact with me, like face to face, or just like, how do I do this? So we just kind of like, whatever silly ideas that we had, we just kind of like did that for the longest time. And then eventually I landed my first job at a news station, and frankly, it wasn't as creative as your first job in Channel 5 or your church, but it was what I needed to survive through that moment.
And by choosing that, you were choosing to at least pick a job that would be in line with the career goals that you had.
They had camera.
And so for some businesses, that is important. They want to have that, like, all right, how experienced are you? How many years of experience have you had doing this thing? It's the old joke of like, we're looking for somebody with, 5 to 10 years of experience. And then you're like, you're a new graduate, like, how do I can't have 5 to 10 years? Like, doesn't exist yet.
But you got to apply anyway, because you might have been the only one to apply.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But like, even going back to the arcade, I think you showed a great example of like when you first were, because the arcade and Creative Edge are under the same umbrella, there's a lot of back and forth that we're doing. So, when you first came in and you saw some of the equipment that we had, and you were genuinely curious, and you told me like you went home after like seeing my Red or some of the Blackmagic cameras and things like that.
All of it.
Yeah, and you went home and just did a bunch of research so that you were familiar with the equipment enough, which it was great. It was, you were able to jump in and then start. To my point earlier, it's not that you're fast learner, it's you took the time to then get familiar with the stuff, so then you could walk in, and if there was the opportunity present itself, you weren't going, all right, give me a minute, I have to go.
Yeah, the learning curve wasn't there. I'd already learned it.
Right, exactly. And the thing too of, you were again in the role, you were an attendant, we asked to do some social media stuff, but we weren't dumping that whole role on you because that wasn't the original reason that you were hired for.
Of course.
And then as we saw that, I'll be honest, there are people that have come from NWTC, some that have been great and some that have not been as great. And honestly, it's not the program, it's the person.
Of course.
It's very much like, for some people, digital media, we found is the name of the course that they have at the college. Some people pick it just because it's like movies and TV. That's
I love
really
it.
cool.
I watch Markiplier on YouTube. I want to,
especially knowing that YouTuber is like the number one thing that people now want to have as a job.
Yeah, they want to be Mr. Beast and make a lot of cash. It makes sense that people land in that field. Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is there's a flood of people that come out of it thinking, great, I want a job. And there's, especially in this area, there's not as many jobs as there are people wanting jobs.
Of course.
Again, that's coming back to the old story of why I started my own company, was because it was even less then. There's more now. But yeah, there's still not a lot of opportunities, at least in that broad umbrella. Like, I want to work for a production company or a studio or something like that.
Yeah.
if you're willing to look outside that box and look for companies that might have video needs within their company, it's still not going to be the same, but you can definitely, when we started Creative Edge Concepts, which is our video marketing agency, I years ago had thought about doing the marketing agency thing. I thought about like, hey, this could be an area for us to have additional business and revenue. And we tried to do the website design and brand development and logos and all the other stuff that came with it. And I quickly was like, nope, this is outside of our core competency. It's not really what I want to focus our energy on. And there's other people doing it that have been doing it longer. But more recently, post-COVID, as I was trying to restructure the company and figure out what a long-term vision looked like for Creative Edge, I realized that video marketing on its own has evolved into such a big category that we could just be a video marketing agency that specialized on digital marketing strategies. And there's a warrant for that. Like, we can just specialize in that one thing. And so what I leading into is that like a department in any company, whether it's an arcade, whether it's a church, whether it's, pick a brand, almost anybody can benefit from having an entire department that focuses on social media content, of course, with an emphasis on video, because there are some platforms that only do video, TikTok, YouTube. And so, if you're good at video, then everything else can kind of fall into place in our opinion. And if you're good at other stuff, that doesn't necessarily translate directly into being good at video. Like, there's so many businesses that have a very average social media page because they just put a bunch of polished posts on there. I think that's social media, And so if you can help a company understand the appropriate way to do it, frankly, go watch our Video Pathfinder webinar, then go to a company and say, this is how you should be approaching video, and you'll probably get a job. So you're welcome.
You're welcome.
And I want to lead into how you started working with us full time then, because, you were working at the arcade, and almost every year around end of summer into the fall, prior to winter, we have a dip in traffic to the arcade. It's very predictable. So that's why we always tell our staff that it's somewhat of a seasonal job. And coming off of COVID and everything, it was a really large dip. So like, I was hoping that we could eventually bring you in to Creative Edge, or have you working partly for the arcade, partly for Creative Edge, or something like that. There was still that dip that we hit. And so we were like, well, and it wasn't a surprise. We wasn't just like, hey, you're let go. It was, this is the goal, but I don't know if it's going to happen right now. And so then you had gone off and worked at the TV station. And
I worked at 3 other jobs, Tony.
Sure. Well, there's that. But then as things pick back up, we were interested in bringing you back on board. But even prior to that, as I was pursuing this whole idea of a video marketing agency, and, I'll just say, like, Creative Edge Productions, originally, we just focused on the kind of the high-end stuff, the flagship videos, the commercials, corporate videos, those types of things that were the bigger projects and warranted better camera gear and bigger crews and all that kind of stuff. And we got really good at that. Even though we were making social media content, we weren't necessarily pursuing that as a avenue of revenue and business for our company. It was because we were just going after those main big projects, the corporate videos, like I said. And then after COVID and having a dip, like almost everybody did in revenue, I started reevaluating where do we fit in the market long term, what fits best for us, and what actually is going to get us the best results for our clients. Because like, we can make this really, really kick-ass corporate video, commercial, whatever like that, and if they don't know what to do with it,
like zero, they post it in a spot that nobody
stick it on YouTube, upload to Facebook once,
get 3 views,
a couple dozen views, and then it's like, yay, that was totally worth the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that we spent.
But it looked so pretty.
Exactly, yeah.
Why did it not work?
Right, and so that made me realize, like, okay, we essentially are reliant on our clients' competency to do with the video for anything that we do to have value to them. And I'm like, well, we got to stop that initially. So we started realizing we need to then start working in the strategy. We need to focus on results-driven digital marketing strategies for our clients and let the video be the tool that gets them there. But the strategy is really what we're selling. The video is just the thing that we put in front of people. It's no longer, we're not selling video anymore. We're selling these strategies. And with that, I really wanted to get good and familiar with all the different types of organic content, because we basically broke down there, there's ad content and organic content. Those are the kind of the two different things. And I'll say, like, so you may have heard me say, like, the three categories of video for business are video as an asset. So that's, again, flagship videos, testimonials, trade show videos, those type of things.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the core of what Creative Edge Productions did for a long time, and we still do that. But then there's video for platform. So that's usually organic content. It can be shorts, it can be podcasts, video podcasts like you're listening to or watching right now. It can be live streaming, it can be whatever. So that's video for a platform. And then video as for an ad is, again, the ad platforms. And depending on what ad platform you put the video on, it really, really is important as to what you're making. Like, if it's going to be a social media ad, it has to have a very different structure to it than if it's a TV ad or, whatever. All that said, as we were trying to evolve into what we did, we realized we needed to have, like, packages and pre-designed structure for organic type content. So we started experimenting a lot with short form content, seeing what worked and what didn't, allowing us to experiment first and then be able to go to our client and say, all right, this is what we're finding is working out well. So this is what we want to do. This is the efficiency. This is how we can do. It would be very inefficient if we were shooting shorts every day or every week for our client. That would be inefficient for them.
That would be a lot.
It'd be very expensive for them. It would be a lot of time commitment for us. So we developed a system where we were able to shoot our shorts in as little as half a day in a batch, and we can do an entire month's worth of shorts in that time. And then, you have gotten amazing at being able to crank out edits at a very efficient workflow. But in order to get to that, we had to experiment through it. So I did the first round of edits for several of our shorts as I was getting the format figured out. And then I reached out to you and I said, hey, I don't have a huge budget, because NextWaveDV, we've talked about before, I don't make a ton of money off of it. It's, we maybe make $100 a month in ad revenue. I don't have sponsors very often. It's just not a big income maker. So it's there for us to give back to the community, and also for us to then help promote that, hey, we are a competent production company that if you're interested and you need help for your business, consider reaching out to us. So we're trying to lead by example and use NextWaveDV as a place for us to experiment, to learn from viewer reactions, and then be able to bring this experience to our customers. As frankly, not a lot of production companies, especially in our area, have any sort of social media presence. Like, maybe they do a couple social media posts, but
definitely
nobody's doing a lot of what we're doing here. And so all that said, I had reached out to you. I'm like, I don't have a ton of money to work with, but because basically everything we're paying for you was just out of pocket to do the edits. But I still wanted to flesh out an idea that we could then have you just really get good at, add to it, because you elevated it. Like, I did like a certain level of it, but then when you came in, we started fleshing out, should we have memes? Should we have emojis? So, like, we fleshed out that idea, and then you really brought a great energy and just a good kinetic feel to the video edits that became the thing that we started selling. And as soon as we managed to get a few clients on board, I was like, all right, Quinn, we brought you back into the arcade. You were working part-time for Creative Edge, and then that quickly moved over. All right, we got enough work. Bye arcade. Yeah.
Yay.
And so you were able to work full-time with us. And I want to commend you, because, like, I know you had friends that were very hesitant, thinking like, oh, they're just going to use you and abuse you. And
my whole life story. Everyone kept saying, well, it's not going to go anywhere. They're just going to, they keep, abusing you. They don't pay you and everything. And it's like, I said yes to you when I worked those 3 jobs. You were the number 4. And I'm like, just throw whatever you can at me and I will do it. I couldn't make plans. My plans for video editing, and I loved it because, again, it brought me to where I needed to go. So it was worth every second of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to those video edits as well, I remember you telling me like, because I asked you like, how many do you usually get in like a day? And you're like, yeah, you get like 2 or 3 done in an hour. And I went, oh. And eventually I got the system down to eventually be that. It used to be like, okay, 45 minutes to get one done because I'm learning the system, then 30 minutes for each. I'm like, okay, 2 in an hour. And then eventually AI is a very good help for me. And then eventually it's like 20 minutes, one video. And I'm like, ooh, 3 an hour I can do now. But that is if I'm really focusing on it. But I love it. It's very fun. And then if we add any more extra stuff to it, it might take me longer, but it's still.
But that's
fun.
Honestly part of it was for us to figure out that system, because there are some great shorts I've seen of some other content creators that really throw a lot in there. They do the green screen, and they are constantly there's animations behind them and in front of them and little pop-ups and all sorts of stuff. Like those, I guarantee it take like at least an hour or two to edit each one. And based upon the budget that we wanted to allocate to our clients, we felt that there'd be a diminishing return if we had to double or triple our post budget.
Yeah.
Just to give them that extra level as opposed to the level that we had. But we also didn't want to go down from the level that you were doing, because there was a good energy. It worked on the short form platforms. It kept your attention much better than just a static talking head that had no edits, no energy, no anything. So, on short form, they say you kind of want to be changing up the frame every few seconds just to keep people's attention. Not that you have to be bashing them over the head with it, but just finding ways to just keep a visual energy to it. And again, you did an amazing job, better than any of the stuff that I was doing. And so that willingness to work with us and flesh that out allowed us to then turn around and sell it, and then immediately be able to start paying you, the rate that you should be paying, and eventually hire you on full time as well. But I think, that I can't promise you that every potential video job out there is going to have that level of commitment to a person, but and like goodwill and all that kind of stuff, But also, I mean, we talked about before, like I know the world you came from. I'm not just
you've lived the world I came from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not just some higher up that is like, I don't get it, but you're just a peon or whatever like that. Like I love doing video production. I love showing up on set. I love lighting. I love setting up the cameras. I love seeing the imagery, all that kind of stuff. I enjoy it. And if I ever stopped enjoying it, I don't know if I'll keep doing it, but I really do. I have not burnt out on that. I mean, I popped around jobs for the longest time. The longest I was at a job prior to being fully independent was maybe 3 years. And prior to that, it was either jobs that I was in for 6 months, maybe a year or two. I've now been doing this full time for 12 years now, I think. And
surely longer than me.
And I mean, the only things that have changed have been, obviously we started the arcade as that side business, and then starting the video marketing agency. But I felt that was more of an evolution of the company than necessarily changing what I'm doing. It did require me to kind of go back to school sort of and like relearn aspects. I always had a familiarity with a lot of digital marketing, but I never would have considered myself an expert until I took a deep dive and I was like, all right, it's time for me to learn all the aspects of it, how to properly run campaigns, the audience patterns, all those types of things. And so that process of going back and relearning and learning something new and increasing my value to the market also was probably the last major suggestion that I would give people is, if you're looking to get a job, if your skill set is the same as everybody else, then you have, it's that whole supply and demand. Of course. Like if there's 20 people out there that are interested in a single job, great. If there's 100 people, if whatever, if you're all having the same skill set, it's just going to be personality, maybe first person to the thing. But
if you has a drive in that one as well. I mean, it's just like 20 people. You're the one guy's like, okay,
right.
I'm the copy and paste, same as the rest. You got to be able to like outshine in some way or form.
Exactly. But if you can step in with some extra level of expertise, you know, we always say, you know, sometimes it's that combination of things that make somebody more valuable. Like, you know, I'm a cinematographer. I can make pretty images and I enjoy doing it, but I also am a digital marketing expert. So I understand that what we're trying to shoot and the story we're trying to tell is only as good as the results it's going to get for our clients. So that becomes a driving force. And I mean, how many times have you seen some really highbrow, fancy car ad or something like that, where it's like that? I don't understand what just happened. It's just pretty imagery, and that's nice to look at, but like, is it actually, is the audience remembering the brand? Is it resulting in increased sales? Is it resulting in any of that kind of stuff? Because for a company to make that level of investment, they need to see results. That's, you know, otherwise you're just not going to exist long term.
So it's a very good skill to have too. If you're able to, I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, just being able to, you know, incorporate those different things together. So, you know, like looking at yourself, there are multiple skill sets that you excelled at that allowed you to be you know, something that we could be, okay, great. I can send you out on a shoot. You know how to use a camera. You know how to edit. You know how to do certain levels of animation. You know, it's not that you can do everything, but you know enough about some of the key factors and the key needs that we had. So then it was like, great, because like there are times where, like for the Initiative 1 podcast that we shoot, you're a camera operator on that and you help set up gear. And then, you know, you go back and then you're doing some of the editing. And so it's for us as well, like we don't always have enough workflow for post only, but having you do other things then fills in some of those blanks as well.
And the funny thing I find with that when it's like I know this and I know that, and it's like it didn't just happen in a day. And one of the things is like, well, you try to like make yourself be different from the rest of the crowd that's trying to also get that job. And I find that in my experience that I was the one guy that just said yes to everything. And I had so many friends and so many colleagues of mine just say, well, you don't want to do that because you might get abused and stuff like that. And it's like, I get that. However, you just have to. If you say no to too many things, all of a sudden the opportunities run dry. And it's like, why am I not finding work anymore? So it's just like, I say yes to that many things. I say yes to things to you that I have no idea what I'm doing.
Like, hey, go get a podcast this morning.
Yeah, you called me. You're like, you want to be on a podcast? I'm in my head, no, I don't. But I'm like, you know what, it'd be a good opportunity. I've never done it and we'll see where it goes. And I just like, I say yes to like everything. And that's just how I am able to just learn one thing at a time. And it's like, I don't know how to use a Red camera. I didn't even know what it was when I came here. I was like, oh, that's a camera. Cool. And then I went home and I went, it's how expensive? And it's like, we can do this, and that. And then it's just like, I learn as that goes on. It's just, I've gotten myself to basically be like, don't be afraid of anything that's new. And don't be scared of like just new opportunities. Cause it's like, sometimes I don't want to drive like down the highway all the way down to this shoot all the way over here. I don't want to do that, but I have to. And then I learn more from it, and then I gain more experience from it, and then more opportunities show up because I got in contact with that one person to this person to this person, and just like it turns into a snowball effect eventually, just from just saying yes to the thing I wanted to say no at.
Exactly.
Here I am.
Well, and a lot of times you recognize that, you know, you get comfort comes from experience. Experience comes from doing things that you haven't done before.
Yeah.
And you have to do them enough because, like, yeah, now I can show up in a corporate shoot and just do it with my eyes closed. Like, I've done it so many times, but the very first corporate shoot I showed up on, I was nervous as heck. I was scared to death. And yeah, that is 100%, because like everybody wants to jump to the point of experience. They want to be comfortable and know, but if you don't ever push yourself outside your comfort zone, then you're only going to be comfortable in this one small, narrow area of thing.
Of course.
You know, the old adage is like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And if you are presented with opportunity, because we always use the word opportunity. And Alex Hermosi made a great post one time that I absolutely love. And he said, you know, opportunities only look like opportunities in the rearview mirror.
Yes.
And when you're in the midst of them, they are
risk.
Like risk.
Yep.
And I think that's such an important thing to look at, because we always are like, well, it's, you hear the term great opportunity. You only can recognize it as a great opportunity potentially in that rearview mirror. Like, I took a chance, and it was a good opportunity, and I was able to do that.
Yeah.
But if you're not taking it, again, it only looks like risk when it's right in front of you. And if you're not taking that time to take some of those chances, yes, you are going. The only way that you can, see a really, really strong outcome is to take a risk. Most of the time, things that aren't risky don't move the needle too much in your life. It's just the same old. And yeah, I think that, if there's anything that we were to summarize this entire podcast into, is that, for each of us, the job opportunities came out of being able to say yes a lot, even when it was working for free.
Working for free is the biggest risk.
Yeah.
But I found that it still helped me get my portfolio to be wide, or just like bigger in general, because even if it doesn't go anywhere, I can still take that work and bring it somewhere else.
Exactly. And, when we say work for free, I'm always hesitant about that, because it can sound very much like, I'll just, nobody will ever pay me, and I should just say yes to everything.
There is a level. There is a level.
Well, but also you can vet. I'm not saying like you interacted with us. It wasn't the very first day that you showed up that I'm like, here's a whole bunch of work, go do it. It was, we got to know you, you got to know us, and you could tell, the level of sincerity and the goals and focus. And I was very transparent with you. And I'm like, this is the goal. If it works, this is what'll happen. No guarantee that it will. And it wasn't like I was paying you nothing to do those edits. It was just less than my goal of 8 miles on the road.
Yep.
And then, of course, that eventually turned into a full-time job. But, in all those scenarios, like you at some point, you're going to have to do something that is, like for me, when I was working at the church and I started my production company, fortunately, they were okay with it. I did tell them, like, listen, I'd like to do this on the side. And they were flexible and allow that to happen. But I was also like coming home from work and then working again. And I was doing NextWaveDV. I was doing a lot of blogging at the time. I was trying to do creative. So I was
burning out real quick.
Yeah, I was doing 3 jobs in that regard. So I had the full time church, and then and actually at the church I was working for both entities, the church and the marriage ministry. So you can almost say I was working 4 jobs at the time.
Now you're at 4. We're similar again.
Exactly.
Look at that.
And that's why one of the things that when I finally went full time for Creative Edge, I was like, oh my gosh, I can finally come home to work and not come home to work.
Relax.
Yeah,
it's back in your schedule.
Yeah, and that's why we've been try to be very, you're salaried, which for some people can be very like, all right, what can we get out?
That's another risk.
Yeah, exactly. And you've heard me say lots of times, like, go home early when you can, take off when you can, because like when we have the longer shoots or we're trying to rush to get a project out the door for a client, that's when we have to put in the extra hours. So relax when you can.
Yeah.
Because that's how we as owners do it, and we try to give you the same respect of your schedule, so that you can be as you can enjoy the benefits that we have, frankly.
Of course.
And it's important to me that we have that type of corporate culture, which, you've worked at other companies. You can tell me if there's a difference between what we've
big difference. Yeah. Big difference. I love it here.
Glad to hear it. All right, man. Well, I think this has been great. I hope you guys got something out of this. For everybody, it's a different journey. But I thought, as Quinn and I have talked over the years about what both of our early experiences were, we realized like there is something to be said, taking that chance. We both have kind of that story of like, we took a risk, we put in extra effort, and it did turn into job opportunities that probably wouldn't have happened had we not had that willingness to take that chance.
Of course. Yep.
So best of luck to all of you out there. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you like this, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.